Learn English podcast with Stephan Hagege, the world's best language school. Let's go.
ברוכים הבאים לפודקאסט של שפות שלי, בית ספר לאנגלית ושפות נוספות. אני אריאל, I'm your host for today, ויש לי כאן היום אורח סופר מיוחד, a special guest today. Hi Stephen, how are you? Stephan, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
All right, excellent. So we have a special episode today. אנחנו נדבר קצת על משכנתאות. You are a banking expert. אתה יועץ משכנתאות, or do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Sure, absolutely, yeah. So my name is Stephan Hagege. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, so you may hear a slight California accent if that exists. I don't know if I have an accent like Ariel, our friend Ariel here.
Okay.
But I am based in New York City. I help people to get financing to buy real estate in and around New York City.
Okay. And how did you get into the real estate business? How did you get into the banking business, let's say?
That's a great question. So about 20 years ago, I was transitioning from the tech industry and I was looking for a new career. And I was reading the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Kiyosaki. And one statement in the book really stood out for me. And that is that real estate is a great vehicle for wealth. And I said, you know what? I want to get into real estate investing. And so I was exploring, do I become a real estate agent or do I go into the field of financing, purchasing real estate? And it just turned out at the time when I was searching online for jobs, I saw an offer from a bank that said, hey, we're offering a salary and training and leads. Come work for us and we'll train you from scratch. And I
took it on.
And I took it on.
Okay, זה נשמע exciting, אני מסמך מרגש. So אני אסכם לכם בעברית, סטיבן קצת סיפר פה, סטפן סיפר פה שהוא בעצם מלוס אנג'לס, and הוא התחיל בעצם להיכנס לתחום הבנקאות, בתחום הטק, הוא התחיל לשון קצת קריירה, career change. סטפן, אתה מבין קצת עברית, נכון?
קצת עברית, כן.
אז אני קצת ישלים, למי שלא הבין טיפה, קצת ישלים, ואז אתה נכנס לתחום הטק, ואז אתה חיפשת שינוי, קראת ספר אבא שיר, אבא אני, It's one of my, it's a good read, recommended מאוד לכולם, אם לא קראתם, ספר באנגלית קל לקרוא ומעניין, ושם הוא טוען שבעצם נדל"ן זה כלי מאוד מאוד טוב, it's a good vehicle ליצור הון. עכשיו, now, I want to ask you a question, Stephan, okay? They're saying that currently in the global uncertainty, the economic situation in America, you assist people, call it Israelis or anywhere in the world you can be. Okay, or in America or Israeli or from the UK or from Australia, wherever you may be on earth, you assist people in coming in buying real estate in the US and basically obtaining financing, a mortgage, משכנתה, לקניית הנכס, okay, which is very important. That is the whole way to generate wealth, is to leverage, okay, למנף, so take a loan and increase it. Now, in the current economic conditions, is it still attractive to buy real estate in the US?
I'll admit that I'm biased. I mean, I got into this business because I believe in real estate as a vehicle for wealth. I also truly believe, and if you look at the stats, that real estate is a great hedge against inflation, right? As wages go up and as products become more expensive, real estate goes up in value over the long run. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the short term, meaning there are ups and downs in the market, but real estate has proven, at least in the United States, to be a great long-term investment because it appreciates over time.
אוקיי, אז hedge, הוא אמר משהו מילה מאוד יפה, hedge זה גידור, לגדר, אוקיי, אז הוא אומר זה גידור נגד אינפלציה, אוקיי, זה גידור, הכל עולה, כל המחירים עולים, קניית נדל"ן יכול לגדר אתכם מירידת ערך של הכסף שלכם. I agree with that, that's very, very true, but let's talk about a little bit let's say what frightens me. Let's say I'm an Israeli living in Israel. I'm an Israeli citizen, not New York based like Stephan. I'm located in Israel and I'm part of Safotri in Israel. And let's say I want to purchase, or one of our listeners is working in a high-tech company, he wants to invest in American real estate. One of our fears, let's say, is a bubble situation that we had in 2008, subprime mortgage crisis, which was very frightening. A משבר subprime, which is everyone knows about it. Something that hasn't happened in Israel. I mean, now we're reaching new territory in Israel, המלחמה, with a war, with uncertainty, geopolitical, we could be a pariah state. Who knows what the future holds for this country? But let's say if you compare real estate performance, Israel's been relatively safe protected from those sort of bubbles. Do you believe that in America, if the American market has learned from that experience? I mean, is there safety procedures against those kind of bubbles? Do you see a bubble? What do you suggest to calm people's fears when it comes to that?
Again, as I mentioned before, there's always ups and downs in the market. But even from the mortgage meltdown, and I was working in the business in 2008 and it suffered a bit financially, and even was investing in real estate at the time and was hurt a bit financially. Since then, if you compare where real estate is, the values of real estate in 2008, 2009, compared to today, you'll see that it's increased in value. So again, in the long run, I mean, it's in my opinion that you cannot lose with investing in real estate. Now, where are we today? There's population growth. There's a lack of housing in the United States.
Okay.
So it's very regional. When you talk about where to buy, like what's the best place to buy, obviously you go...
Wait. זו שאלה טובה מאוד. עכשיו אנחנו נכנסים לקטע איפה בארצות הברית. This is the one and the next question. What's that, John? You really came on it? אוקיי, זה בדיוק למה הבאתי כאן את סטפן לפודקאסט שלנו. לפתוח לנו קצת עיניים, כי התשואה בארצות הברית, your yield on property is higher than what it is in Israel. And אנשים רוצים לדעת, okay, where is the hot spot? מה אנחנו מדברים?
So, I mean, here's the key. I can't tell you the exact city to buy in. However, you need to look at the statistics, right? Where is their population growth, right? Where are businesses moving in? Where is their job growth, right? Where are people moving to? There might be people moving, potentially, away from California and moving towards Texas, as an example.
Okay.
There might be, wherever there are great, financial hubs of institution. For example, you're talking tech. I lived in North Carolina for 8 years. Mm-hmm. This is in a previous career. I used to work for Cisco Systems, which is the networking company, right? That creates all the plumbing hardware that runs the global internet. And in that area in North Carolina, there was a tech hub, essentially. California is known for their technology, Silicon Valley, for example. I was working in the Silicon Valley of the East. And that was a great area of technology, corporations moving in, populations moving in because of the education, the jobs and educational centers there. There's 3 major universities in that area. I was in the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area in North Carolina. And so I purchased a single-family home that I lived in myself for a few years and then ended up leaving the area. I bought that property back in 1998 and just sold it last year and saw a nice appreciation over that period. And so going back to the topic of where is a good place to buy, where's a good place to invest in real estate? And again, the key is, where is the job growth? Where are people moving because of education, because of career, because of, obviously lifestyle? Where's a nice place to live as well? I mean, a lot of times on the coast, right? You're looking at Miami and in Southern California.
What about military bases? Military base.
It's interesting. Absolutely. So wherever there are jobs, and you think about in and around military bases, there are jobs, right? Jobs that support all that staff that's there to support the military.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Okay. As סטפן פה נתן כמה טיפים יפים, אומר שאתם מחפשים נדל"ן, להסתכל על 3 דברים עיקריים. 1, איפה יש ביקוש לעבודה, with is the job interest. 2, לחפש מקום שיש בו strong educational facilities, בדרך כלל אנשים מחפשים לאוניברסיטאות, יש ביקוש מאוד מאוד גבוה למגורים, ויכול להיות גם אפילו במקומות שאנחנו רואים כמו בסיס צבאי, זה שאלה שנשאלתי אותו כרגע, הוא אומר שכן, זה גם יכול להיות רלוונטי. זה כמה טיפים מעניינים לגבי למצוא מקום. אני מקווה שאתם מבינים את האנגלית של סטפן, הוא מדבר גם בעברית, אבל אנחנו ננסה לעשות כמה שיותר באנגלית. כמובן, תיצרו איתנו קשר עם משהו לא ברור, אם אתם צריכים בעזרה באנגלית, ב-053-550-1976, בשפות שאנחנו לומדים, אנגלית, ספרדית, צרפתית, רוסית, ערבית, איטלקית, ותיצרו איתנו קשר ללמוד עם המורים הכי טובים בעולם. Alright, so I want to ask you another question here, okay? What do you recommend to, let's say I'm an Israeli, okay, and I want to buy property in Israeli. I want to invest. I've got money to invest. I know property in in the US is generally cheaper than what it is in Israel, depending on the location, obviously, but it lets you, there's a lower entry point. המחיר כניסה שלי יותר זול. זאת אומרת, that means that I can enter into the market, maybe 150 grand, 200 grand American, okay, $200,000. I can enter right into the property market with a decent property and begin to rent it out and gain yield. The question is, what should people be looking at? Flipping houses, renovating, flipping, buying long term. Where do you see the gains? Because I know a few Israelis who made a very decent living going to America, moving there, and basically buying property, renovating, going into, let's say, kablanut, a contractor, renovating properties and then flipping them and stuff like that, or taking houses that are up for foreclosure, really looking at location sort of houses. What do you recommend? What are your tips? Okay, I'm looking to make a profit. What are your suggestions for the housing market?
Yeah, it depends on, are we talking about an Israeli who's moving to the United States and working in the United States? Or are we talking strictly someone's based in Israel and wants to just invest their money?
Let's say I'm based in Israel. I'm somebody based in Israel and I'm looking for an attractive investment. What do you suggest?
What I think about is, what is going to be the long term, right? The long-term gain as far as an investment. I mean, someone might get lucky and find a property and buy it very inexpensively, fix it up, spend money to fix it up, and then turn around and sell it. They call this flipping houses, right? So
is it getting lucky or is there a way to do it?
I'm sure there's a way to do it. It's actually not my expertise.
Okay.
I'll say it's not my expertise. I've seen a lot of clients do that and be successful, and I've seen other clients do it and fail.
Okay.
Right. So some of the most wealthy people I've met are those that invest in real estate for the long term.
Okay.
Right. And think about it's sort of like compounding interest, right? And imagine you have a savings account and you put $100,000 in a savings account and you get a small return, right? 1% return over time. And it's compounding, it's growing, right? The first year you have $100,000, the next year you have $101,000. But over time it's growing because the growth is also growing, right?
Okay.
The same thing applies to real estate, but I think you have the opportunity at faster appreciation versus just letting your money sit at a savings account at a low interest rate.
Definitely, because you have the appreciation of the property and obviously you have the yields of the rent and stuff like that if you're renting it out. So I think long-term for sure, you can really lose. It's the most attractive for property market. Now, what would be the terms today for taking a mortgage? Let's talk business. I'm אריאל, אני מתקשר לסטפן, אני אומר לו, ואנחנו נשאיר גם פרטים בסוף. סטפן, I'm going to leave you details at the end. אם מישהו רוצה ליצור קשר עם סטפן, יש לו לשאול שאלות לגבי משכנתאות, או לקנות נכס בארצות הברית, והוא מעוניין לפייננסינג, לשאול איך עושים את זה. אז אנחנו נשאיר כאן פרטים בסוף, שסטפן בעצם יוכל, שתוכלו ליצור אותו קשר לשאול שאלות specifically, okay? They're going to ask you some questions if people are interested in actually buying property in the US directly, okay? So just give us a couple of what would be the process, what to expect. Okay, I'm a foreign citizen. What's the process for me? What are the interest rates? What am I doing? What am I looking at?
Absolutely. So the key is when we look at buying real estate, a bank's going to want to know, how are you using the property? Is it going to be your primary residence, right? Where you're residing? Obviously, as an Israeli citizen sitting in Israel, you're not going to be living there, right? So it's going to be either a vacation home for you or it's going to be an investment property. Most likely investment property if you're not using the property personally. So typically, it depends, again, how you're going to use the property. As an investment property, banks will typically require a larger down payment. You're looking at a minimum of 25% to 30%, if not 40% of the purchase price as a down payment.
Okay.
Also,
that's not bad. That's the maximum we talking about? What is the maximum request that it could ask for a down payment? Or it varies?
It varies, depends on the lending institution, but definitely if you're planning on 40%, I think that's a good target. One of the challenges right now is that interest rates are rather high. So, you're putting down, if you're trying to put down the minimum amount of money, and then when you look at the cash flow analysis of how much rent am I getting versus my expenses, it's not going to look very attractive right now. So obviously the more money you can put down, the better. But the other thing to think about is now is a good time to potentially invest because interest rates are high. It's causing the demand to be lower. And so there's less people competing and possibly there might be a little reduction in value. You might have a better chance to negotiate the price since there's less buyers.
Okay.
And this financing, whatever financing you put in place, if you're going to use financing, it's temporary. The forecast is that interest rates should be coming down over the next couple of years, right? As inflation comes down, we also expect mortgage interest rates to come down. And as the mortgage interest rates come down, we expect the house values to go up.
Right.
So if you wait until the rates go down, it may not be the most opportune time to purchase, because then there's going to be more buyers coming back into the market.
And you might be priced out.
You might be priced out. So now might be the time. So consider this like bridge financing, right? The rates are high right now. Maybe you're not going to get a great return right now, but in a year or two, when you're able to refinance, right? Get a new mortgage with new terms.
Okay.
Then you might have a better yield.
Okay, סטפן אומר, אם לא עכשיו ומתי, now is the right moment to do it. I think I agree with you. I think it's a very double-edged sword. It's a fine sword, but if you have the money, it's always a good time to buy property, no matter what time it is. Okay, and now, when you sit down and do the math with a client, okay, let's say I'm coming in and I want to do the math with you, meaning for me, what would interest me as an investor is like this. Let's say I have $200,000, which I want to invest on the side. Now I'm coming to you, Stephan, I'm giving you a call. I'm saying, okay, I need a 40% down payment. When I do the math, rent versus will it cover versus my mortgage? Am I managing still? Because in Israel at the moment, according to some of the research that I've done, and I've had a few guests on the show, לכמה אורחים כאן אצלנו, כמה מומחי נדל"ן, few specialists in real estate. In Israel currently, when you're looking at the down payment versus what you're getting on the return, which is low, it's about a 2.5-3% yield max in Israel on the return. 2.5-3% שנתי על השכירות. When we're looking at here, and you're basically on a negative yield, meaning you'd be what you'd be receiving from the rent is not covering your mortgage, which is a bad situation to be in, because you always have overheads. Let's say you always have expenses. You have a tenant, sometimes things can go wrong, there's overheads coming down. Now, in America at the moment, do you see a surplus? If we're looking at a 40% down payment, when you do the math you see your clients do the calculation in their head, or with you on paper, literally, are they in the positive or in the negative in terms of the yields?
I think it's going to be close to a break even or a negative right now because of the high interest rate environment.
Okay.
Again, the thought is to get in now, hopefully negotiate and buy something at a lower price.
Okay, and it buffers
in the long term, right? It buffers the loss that you're taking with the thought process that in a year or two, you're going to restructure the debt into a lower interest rate and then get into a positive situation, positive yield.
Okay, it's very, very interesting to say that, because this is something that the Israeli investors always look at, okay, and always look at American markets, saying high yields, it's always a trade-off. Okay, now, when you look at the long-term, let's say, picture right now in the US market, okay, and what do you expect going forward in terms of, what are the expectations right now in terms of interest rates, Ribiot? Is it supposed to go down next year, 2 years? What is the outlook more or less? What is the talk inside the industry? What do you guys feel? Obviously, it impacts business, like you're saying, with demand, and also private consumers want to know, because you need to time this right if you want to get into the market. There's no, like I said before, I think there's no good time to time a real estate purchase. Okay, long term, you're going to be making money, but according to outlooks, what is it looking like interest rates now?
Yeah, Freddie Mac, which is one of the large government-sponsored entities that helps create underwriting guidelines for lending in the United States, is forecasting the rates are going to be about 1% lower in a year.
Okay. What are they currently?
So you're looking at the high 6s and low 7% range.
High 6s, low 7s. Okay, in Israel, we're close. We're about 5.5. You're always paying prime plus whatever on the interest rate, depends on what you negotiate. Okay, so it's more or less similar. So I think it's global now. We're in a global village. So there's no shortcuts anyway. Okay, now I'm going to ask you a difficult question, Stephan. Honest opinion here. Okay, this is interesting. This is something else which people look at, because people work hard, they save up cash, or they have some kind of lump sum which comes onto them, and they need to do something with it. Now, one of the main considerations of an investor is, do I go for something like the S&P 500? Okay, do I go stock market? Or do I go real estate? Okay. Or do I even go for an index, which is real estate related? That could be also an interesting option, but that's really same as S&P. I'll probably lean towards S&P on that. But let's say, how do you answer someone's consideration? When a client comes to you, obviously, you're in the real estate business and you want to promote your business, and it makes sense, it's logical. But how do you pitch it? How do you explain it to somebody who's debating, okay, maybe she just put my 200K inside let's say the S&P 500. I'm making on average 8 to 10% a year, and I'm looking at a decent surplus. It's also gone up in the last, let's say, 20, 30 years it's had hiccups, but long term, you're looking at a pretty safe bet, let's say. How do you explain that off?
I think it depends on every investor's goals. Think about how much time do they want to invest in this investment, right? Owning real estate, owning an investment property is not 100% hands-off, right? You put money in the S&P 500, it's passive. You do have absolutely nothing as far as management. You look at it every once in a while, you look at your statement, but otherwise you could forget about it, and you're going to continue to earn money in the long run. Whereas real estate requires some management. You could hire a manager, certainly, to help you manage your property, but then you're going to be paying that manager a fee. But even when you have a manager, like I had my investment property in North Carolina, because I was remote, I wasn't living in North Carolina at the time, I still had to hire a manager to go on site and help me find tenants and periodically deal with little issues, maintenance issues, for example.
Okay.
So it really all depends on the client, the investor, and what their goal is. If they're looking to get a bigger return and they have some time to dedicate to that investment, I think it's a good idea to learn and get into investing in real estate personally.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. I agree with you. Now, let's say I come to you for real estate, for mortgage consultancy, and I want to take a mortgage through you or through your bank. תסביר קצת למאזינים שלנו בארץ, to Israeli listeners, what would be the procedure, just in a couple of words. We know we're nearly ending the end of this episode, but just like a couple of words about what would be, let's say in a nutshell, what would be the process? What would be the paperwork? What compliance do you need from me? What banks, what do you need to see source of income? Do you need to see what history about me? Do you need to see what do you need to see about my properties that I own? What kind of disclosures do I need to buy property in the US as a foreign citizen?
Great question. The way I think about it, when I think about getting financing in the United States, there's 4 pieces to the puzzle. A bank's going to want to understand what's your borrowing history. Like, do you have a credit history? Do you have some, credit history in the United States? If not, what is the history? What kind of history can you show of showing that you have good character and that you're going to be paying things on time?
Will Israeli credit, does that show? Is that something useful if you have mashkantot or mortgages in Israel? Does that play points towards that?
Absolutely.
Or not really?
Absolutely. If we can document that you have a positive history of using credit and paying credit on time, like mortgages here in Israel, then that's going to be a factor that a bank in the United States is going to want to look at.
Okay.
That's key.
Okay.
The second thing is your income in relationship to that future housing expense. Now, it could be, we could isolate that and look just at the property and say, okay, what is the rental income that this property is going to generate versus the expenses of running that property? So that's also something we can do. Again, it depends on how you're going to own the property. Are you going to own the property in your name personally? Are you going to be personally guaranteeing that property and that loan? We're going to want to understand your personal financials. The second thing we're going to look at, the third thing we're going to look at are your assets, right? We want to know that you have enough money for the down payment and closing costs. And ideally, you have some money left over for emergencies. Heaven forbid you lose your job. We want to know that you've got some backup. Some backup, exactly. The fourth piece of the puzzle is the property itself, right? This is the collateral for the bank, right? They're lending you money at relatively low interest rates, maybe not the greatest interest rates right now, but again, compared to credit card interest rates, it's much lower. So this is the collateral for the loan. So the bank wants to know that the property is in good condition, that it's functional, there's no health or safety issues, that, heaven forbid that you stop paying the mortgage, that they can go and claim the property, take the property back through a process called foreclosure, and then turn around and hopefully sell it to recoup some of their cost of you not paying.
Yeah. Okay, so that sums that up. How long, just in 2 words, how long would this process take?
On average, I would say it's 45 to 60 days.
בין 45 ל-60 יום, ויש לכם נכס, פייננסינג, בארצות הברית, עם סטפן, שהוא באמת a good friend, but a mastermind in the American property industry. So get in touch with Stephan. Stephan, what are your contact details so people can reach out to you?
Sure. Best way to get me is going to be, you're welcome to call me via phone or WhatsApp at +1 917 232 0509. Or you're welcome to try me on the internet at www.askstephan.com. That's ASKSTEPHAN.com.
All right, excellent. So guys, feel free, תודה רבה שהזמתם לנו היום, מקווה שנהנתם מהפרק, and feel free to reach out to Stephan for details, and מקווה שלמדתם קצת אנגלית as well. You guys hold your ears and listen to some English. Stephan's got a very, very nice American, clean-cut, neutral accent, which I enjoy listening to as well. ותרשמו לנו קצת פידבק על הפרק, על מה חשבתם על היום, וכמובן אם תרצו לשמוע עוד פרטים על הקורסים שלנו כאן, ומה אנחנו עושים, אנחנו מלמדים אנגלית בשיטה מאוד מאוד חדשנית, עשו איתנו קשר, אנחנו כמובן תמיד נשמח לעזור, ואנחנו מזמינים גם בוואטסאפ. Stephan, my dear friend, it was a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for coming on. You dropped some major insights for me, really. I asked you all the questions and all the concerns that I have. And you know what my dream is? To keep buying as much property as I can and try not to sell it as long as I can. Because if I can do that, then I'm going to be making some serious wealth in the long run. I think that's the aim. Buy as much as you can without selling. If you can achieve that, it's a good goal, no?
I agree 100%. I've bought and sold 5 properties in my lifetime, and I wish I'd kept all 5. And so I appreciate you having me here today.
All right. Thank you very much, and have yourself a wonderful day. אני אהיה כאן שוב איתכם שבוע הבא. תודה רבה, וביי ביי.